The sun hadn't even cracked the horizon, and there I was, already nursing a cold cup of coffee, thinking back on the roller coaster my life had turned into. 15 years, you'd think you know someone, right? Our marriage was the envy of our friends. Love, trust, mutual respect, the whole 9 yards. But then things started to shift. So subtle at first that I thought I was imagining it. It began with the late nights at work. Big project, massive deadline, she'd say, her face buried in her phone, her fingers dancing over the screen like it was on fire. Communication turned from deep conversations about our future to talking about as mundane things as the weather. The warmth between us cooled off, replaced by a distance I couldn't bridge no matter how hard I tried. Then came the day that turned my world upside down. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and her phone buzzed incessantly on the kitchen counter. "Could you grab that for me?" She called from the shower, her voice echoing off the tiles. What I saw on that screen shattered the idyllic picture of our marriage into a million pieces. Messages that weren't meant for my eyes, filled with words of affection, plans, and promises, all with someone who wasn't me. 15 years of marriage, and there it was. The truth laid bare in a string of texts. The shock hit me like a freight train. Denial, anger, betrayal. I felt them all at once. Confronting her only led to more lies, evasion. A maze of words meant to confuse and deflect. "You're imagining things," she said, her eyes avoiding mine. But I knew what I saw. I knew the truth. So I made a decision. No confrontations, no dramatic showdowns. If fire was met with fire in the past, I'd turn into a goddamn inferno. I'd make her feel the pain, the betrayal, the utter devastation that I felt. But I'd do it my way. Silent, deadly, a shadow moving in the dark. I started my own affair, a mirror to her deception, cloaked in the same shroud of secrecy she wrapped herself in. Covering my tracks became second nature, a game of cat and mouse where I was both predator and prey. And all the while I collected my evidence. A photo here, a message there. Whispers from those who thought they were confiding in a friend. I became a collector of secrets, my heart growing colder with each new piece of the puzzle. The plot was set, the stage ready for the grand unveiling. My revenge would be meticulous, calculated, a slow poison that would seep into every aspect of her life until there was nothing left but regret and ruin. I was no longer the man she married. I was the architect of her downfall, building my strategy with the precision of a chess master. Every step I took was a step away from the man I used to be, driven by a thirst for retribution that knew no bounds. With every secret liaison, every piece of evidence tucked away for the right moment, I lost a piece of my soul, but it didn't matter. The die was cast, the path chosen. There was no turning back now. I was deep into the game now. The lines between right and wrong blurred into a mess I couldn't, or maybe wouldn't, untangle. The first move? An anonymous package slipped into the mailbox of one of her closest friends. It was loaded with enough evidence to light the fuse, but not enough to blow everything sky high. Not yet. I was pacing the room, heart hammering in my chest, when the inevitable happened. The rumors started, whispers turning into loud questions, her phone buzzing nonstop. I watched from the shadows, a spectator in the destruction I orchestrated. The confusion on her face was a picture I couldn't quite enjoy or regret. "What's going on?" she'd ask, eyes wide, fear creeping into the edges of her voice. I'd shrug, feigning ignorance, all the while planning my next move. It was a chess game, and I was always 3 moves ahead. I didn't stop there. More packages, more secrets spilled, the circle of knowledge widening like ripples in a pond. I was relentless, the drive for revenge pushing me further into the abyss. Each step took me further from the man I once was. But I was too far gone to care. Then came the grand stage, the social event of the year, where everyone who was anyone would be, the perfect setting for the climax of my carefully laid plans. As the night unfolded, I watched the pieces come together, the tension building until it was almost tangible. And then, with a well-timed whisper here, a strategically placed photo there, the bomb dropped. The reaction was immediate, the fallout spectacular. The room went silent, all eyes on her. the center of a storm of humiliation and betrayal. She was scrambling, trying to piece together her shattered dignity, her voice barely above a whisper as she tried to explain, to justify. But there was no sympathy to be found, not after the seeds of doubt I'd sown had taken root. It's not what it looks like, she pleaded, but the evidence was irrefutable, her guilt displayed for all to see. But fate, it seems, has a sense of irony. In her search for answers, she stumbled upon my own secrets, my own betrayal. The confrontation was inevitable, the air charged with anger and hurt as we stood there, accusing each other, our marriage crumbling under the weight of our mutual deceit. How could you? She demanded, her eyes flashing with a mixture of hurt and indignation. How could I? I shot back, the hypocrisy of the situation not lost on me. How could you for 15 years? We were two sides of the same coin, our betrayals reflecting back at us, magnifying the pain and the lies we'd lived. The room felt too small, the air too thick, as we stood there. The years of love and companionship reduced to ashes in the fire of our revenge. It was a standoff, a moment suspended in time where everything hung in the balance. But there was no turning back, no words to mend what had been broken. We were beyond forgiveness, beyond redemption. The damage was done, and all that was left was the debris of a life we once cherished. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps me out and lets me know you appreciate the content. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Subscribing is a great way to stay updated with all the latest videos and to be part of our growing community. It's quick, it's free, and it ensures you won't miss out on any upcoming content. So go ahead, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Your support means a lot and keeps this channel going. Thanks for watching. Just when I thought I had the upper hand, life threw a curveball that knocked the wind right out of me. There I was plotting my next move, when out of the blue, he showed up. Her old flame, or should I say, the spark that ignited this whole mess. His reappearance wasn't just a coincidence. It was a calculated move, a counterattack that I hadn't anticipated. Seeing them together, whispering in hushed tones with heads close, sent a chill down my spine. It was clear they were up to something, plotting a scheme to turn the tables on me. My gut twisted at the thought. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was war, and the battlefield had just expanded. I tried to play it cool, keep my ear to the ground while pretending not to notice their newfound alliance. But inside, I was reeling. How could she, with him of all people? The irony wasn't lost on me, but it stung all the same. Word got out, as it always does. The whispers turned into loud chatter, the sides forming almost overnight. Friends and family, the ones I thought were on my side, were now picking apart every move, every decision. In this public duel of narratives, did you hear what he did? But she started it, didn't she? The lines were drawn, and the once private battle was now a spectator sport. Then came the blow I never saw coming. A trusted friend, someone I considered family, turned on me. The details of my revenge, my secrets, were laid bare for all to see. Betrayal has a taste, and it's bitter than you can imagine. The shock, the sense of betrayal, it hit me harder than any revelation about her affair ever did. Isolation is a funny thing. It creeps up on you slowly, then all at once, enveloping you in a blanket of solitude. The looks, the whispers, the outright avoidance, it was clear. I was the pariah, the villain in their eyes. My world, once filled with camaraderie and support, had shrunk to the size of a cell. The judgment was palpable, a weight I carried with every step, every glance. But if they thought that would be enough to stop me, they were sorely mistaken. The fire inside me, fueled by betrayal and hurt, blazed brighter, hotter. I doubled down, my resolve hardening. If my reputation was already in ruins, what did I have left to lose? I went on the offensive, digging deeper, uncovering secrets that she thought were buried deep. The gloves were off, and I was playing for keeps. The stakes were higher, the fallout more devastating. I was determined to expose every lie, every deceit, until there was nothing left to hide. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. about clawing my way out of the pit of despair and isolation they'd thrown me into. With each revelation, each piece of evidence I brought to light, I reclaimed a piece of myself, a piece of the life I'd once known. It felt like the final act of a tragedy, where everyone knew their role, but hoped the script would somehow change. She came to me, a shadow of the woman I once knew, her eyes holding a mix of fear, regret, and something that looked like hope. Please, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I've ruined everything, but can we just talk? I need you to hear my side. I wanted to listen, wanted to believe there was some sliver of truth in her plea. But the bitterness had taken root too deep, the wounds too raw. Talk? I scoffed, the sound harsher than I intended. What's left to say? You've made your bed. The silence that followed was deafening, the gulf between us wider than ever. But the final showdown was inevitable, a public reckoning that neither of us could escape. We stood before our friends and family, the air thick with anticipation and dread. It was time to lay all the cards on the table, expose every lie, every hurt. As the accusations flew, the tension reached a breaking point. Then the bombshell dropped. The man she had her affair with, the catalyst for our downfall, had been playing us both. His manipulations were laid bare, his motives selfish and calculated. The room erupted into chaos, the revelations sending shockwaves through the assembled crowd. The community's verdict was swift and divided. Some condemned her, their disdain palpable. Others turned their eyes to me, their disappointment in my quest for revenge clear. Friends we'd had for years chose sides, the fractures in our once tight-knit group deepening by the minute. Her downfall was complete, her reputation in tatters, our marriage a casualty of war. She stood alone, a figure of pity and scorn, the weight of her choices finally hitting home. And me? I stood apart, the architect of her destruction, but at what cost? In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the crowd dispersed, the victory felt hollow. I looked around at the ruins of our lives, the isolation my revenge had wrought. The silence was a stark contrast to the cacophony of accusations and revelations that had filled the room moments before. I had won, but the taste of victory was ash in my mouth. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was no better than the man who had manipulated us. In my quest for revenge, I had lost sight of who I was, of what mattered. The cost was too high, the damage irreparable. Alone, I reflected on the path that had led me here, the choices I had made. The quest for revenge had consumed me, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. The price of my actions was a life devoid of the love and companionship I once held dear. As the final chapter of our story closed, the lessons were clear. Revenge was a poison, a destructive force that spared no one. The scars would fade with time, but the memories, the regrets, would linger, a constant reminder of the cost of vengeance. The dawn broke over a world that seemed entirely different from the one I'd known before. The dust had settled, the drama had unfolded, and what was left was the stark reality of the aftermath. My actions, driven by a thirst for revenge, had left a trail of destruction, affecting not just me and her, but our entire community. It was a sobering realization, one that hit me with the force of a tidal wave as I stood amidst the ruins of what used to be my life. Reflecting on the whirlwind of events, I couldn't help but see the futility in it all. The sweet taste of revenge I'd imagined was nothing but ash in my mouth. It brought no peace, no satisfaction. Instead, I was left with a heavy heart and a burden of regret that seemed impossible to shed. The saying, "Revenge is a dish best served cold," never mentioned the lingering coldness it leaves in your own soul. Attempting to start anew amidst these ruins was like trying to build a house on quicksand. No matter how much I wanted to move forward, the shadows of my past actions loomed large, threatening to pull me back into the darkness. The community, once a vibrant tapestry of friendships and connections, now felt like a minefield, each step fraught with tension and uncertainty. My wife, the other protagonist in this tragic tale, faced her own set of challenges. Her attempt to rebuild her life was met with skepticism and scorn, her every move scrutinized by those who once called her friend. Despite this, she soldiered on, her resilience in the face of adversity a stark contrast to the path of destruction I had chosen. The fallout extended beyond just us, affecting the most innocent among us, our children. They became collateral damage in a war they didn't choose, facing bullying and isolation as the community grappled with the scandal. Seeing their pain, their confusion, was a wake-up call, a reminder of the far-reaching consequences of our actions. Legal repercussions soon followed, adding a weight to the already heavy burden of guilt. The extreme measures I'd taken in the name of revenge brought their own set of consequences. A stark reminder that actions, however justified they might feel, have consequences. It was a bitter pill to swallow, a lesson learned in the hardest way possible, but amidst the darkness there were glimmers of hope. The community, though battered and bruised, began the slow process of healing. Some extended olive branches, their gestures of forgiveness and understanding like rays of light piercing through the storm clouds. It was a reminder that healing was possible, that even the deepest wounds could eventually mend. As I navigated this new reality, I realized that the path to healing was not in dwelling on the past, but in looking forward to the future. It was about making amends, about rebuilding not just the relationships that had been destroyed, but also myself. The journey was fraught with challenges, but each step forward was a step away from the shadows of revenge and towards the light of forgiveness and renewal. Just when I thought the dust had settled, life decided to throw another curveball my way. Amidst the fragile peace we'd started to rebuild, a new antagonist emerged, threatening to shatter everything we'd worked so hard to mend. This wasn't just about old wounds reopening. It was about facing the demons I'd unleashed in my quest for revenge and the new ones that had risen from the ashes. The confrontation was inevitable. As I stood face to face with this new threat, a reflection of the chaos I'd sown, I realized the battle wasn't just with them, it was with myself, with the man I'd become in the wake of my wife's betrayal and my subsequent quest for vengeance. This was about confronting the consequences of my actions, facing the reality that in seeking to destroy her, I'd nearly destroyed myself. In the midst of this turmoil, the affair that had started it all came to an official end. It was a sobering moment for her, a bitter pill to swallow as she was forced to confront the wreckage of her choices. The fallout was more than just a marriage broken. It was a life, our life, torn apart by lies and deceit. It was during these dark times that I began to reflect on my journey, the path that had led me to this point. The anger and hurt that had fueled my actions had faded, leaving behind a profound sense of regret. I acknowledged my role in the destruction of our marriage, the part one played in escalating the conflict to the point of no return. It was a hard truth to face, but necessary if there was ever to be any hope of moving forward. And yet, amidst the desolation, a small glimmer of hope appeared. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a chance for both of us to rebuild our lives, albeit separately. The road ahead was uncertain, littered with the debris of our shattered past, but for the first time, there seemed to be a possibility of something new, something better emerging from the ruins. Rebuilding trust, however, was easier said than done. The damage I'd done, the bridges I'd burned in my thirst for revenge, left deep scars. Every attempt to mend fences, to restore the relationships I'd once valued, was met with skepticism and wariness. The path was fraught with difficulty, each step a reminder of the cost of my actions. Meanwhile, my wife took a significant step towards healing. In a public acknowledgement of her guilt, she sought forgiveness from those she'd wronged. It was a powerful moment, one that marked a turning point in her journey. Her willingness to own up to her mistakes, to face the consequences head-on, was a testament to her strength and her desire to make amends. As I watched her take those first tentative steps towards redemption, I couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. It was a reminder that change was possible, that even in the darkest of times, there was room for growth, for healing. Our story might not have had the happy ending we once envisioned, but in its place was something real, something honest. The community we'd once considered an extension of our family remained starkly divided. Some viewed her efforts at redemption through a lens of empathy, rallying behind her with a kind of solidarity that surprised me. Others, however, couldn't see past the wreckage of the past. their hearts and minds sealed shut against any narrative that suggested forgiveness. This division, a tangible reminder of the scandal that had rocked our lives, served as the backdrop against which we both sought to navigate our newfound realities. As for me, the path forward was uncharted, a terrain both daunting and liberating. The man I had become in the wake of her betrayal and my subsequent quest for vengeance was someone I hardly recognized. It was clear that the journey ahead would be less about retracing my steps and more about forging a new path, one that prioritized healing over hurt, growth over grudges. It was time to rediscover who I was beneath the layers of anger and resentment that had defined me for too long. Her journey, paralleling mine yet distinctly her own, was fraught with challenges that seemed insurmountable at times. The stain of her actions, while fading, left a shadow that followed her, a constant reminder of the past that she struggled to move beyond. Yet, with each step forward, she demonstrated a resilience that commanded respect, even from those who had been her harshest critics. Unexpectedly, it was during this period of tentative healing that I found an ally in someone from her past, a figure I'd once viewed with nothing but disdain. Their willingness to bridge the chasm between us, to offer support and understanding, was a turning point, a beacon of hope in the landscape still marred by the scars of our shared history. This unlikely friendship, born out of the ashes of our former life, became a testament to the power of compassion and the possibility of redemption. Our final reckoning came not with fanfare or dramatic revelations, but in quiet moments of introspection. We were forced to confront the true cost of our actions, to acknowledge the depth of the pain we'd inflicted not just on each other, but on those around us. The legacy of the scandal, a shadow that lingered over our community, served as a poignant reminder of the far-reaching consequences of our choices. The cost of revenge, a price I had paid willingly at the time, became painfully clear in its aftermath. The damage to my soul, to the very fabric of my being, was a wound that would take time to heal. The pursuit of vengeance, a path I had chosen with single-minded determination, had led me to the brink of self-destruction. It was a sobering realization, one that forced me to confront the darker aspects of my nature and the choices that had brought me to this point. As the dust settled and the pieces of our lives slowly began to come together, the story of our downfall and the subsequent journey towards healing emerged as a cautionary tale. A tale that spoke to the dangers of allowing anger and hurt to guide our actions, of the importance of forgiveness, not just for the sake of those who have wronged us, but for our own peace of mind. In the end, the legacy of our past, with all its pain and turmoil, also offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild, to start anew with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. The road ahead remained uncertain, but it was a road we walked with a greater sense of awareness, a commitment to do better, to be better. Our story, a tale of love and loss, of betrayal and redemption,